Welcome to the Kind Leader Podcast, where empathy meets action in the world of leadership. Your host, Gino Degregori, engages with innovators and seasoned professionals from diverse sectors, all demonstrating the power of leading with kindness. And now, your host, Gino Degregori.
Today's guest believes that AI doesn't replace leadership, it elevates it. If you're curious how to stay human in a tech-driven world while still leading with speed and purpose, this episode is for you. I'm Gino Degregori, and welcome to the Kind Leader Podcast. Our guest today is Jonathan Mast, founder of White Bear Strategies and Virtual Chief AI Officer. With a digital journey that began in 1995, he's a seasoned speaker, mentor, and educator who helps business leaders leverage AI to save time, increase profits, and amplify their purpose without losing their human connection. Why this conversation matters. Jonathan brings a unique blend of digital strategy, empathy, and practical AI tools to help leaders drive innovation while deepening trust and team capacity. Jonathan, welcome. To kick us off, can you please share a little bit about yourself, your background, and your journey?
No, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, a little bit about me. I have spent most of my career in sales and marketing, and in my mid-50s, discovered AI as a tool that was more readily available to us when ChatGPT kind of put an interface on top of things that made it easier. And I am that quintessential ADD entrepreneur visionary guy. And that means I drive a lot of people on my team crazy because I'm not real good with details and that. And AI really helped me become much more productive than I've probably been in my entire life. And part of that, I believe, was because it allowed me to do things faster. And my brain, which is constantly spinning, being ADHD, didn't get so far ahead that I was able to be able to focus more and get more done. That combined with the fact that I heard all kinds of teams share with me that they were concerned that AI was actually going to take their jobs. And I don't believe that to be the case in the vast majority of the scenarios. As a leader, I really felt called to say, I want to speak into that. I want to help leaders learn how to use AI to amplify their skill and experience, because at its base, that's really what I believe it does. And I want to help their teams understand that, again, this is a tool to help amplify what they're already great at and can actually make them more valuable to their employers, more valuable in their communities, more valuable in their families by leveraging it, as opposed to playing the part of the ostrich, sticking your head in the sand and hoping it goes on by without impacting us, because I honestly don't believe that that's going to happen.
Absolutely. No, I agree 100%. And there's so many changes, especially in the last, 3-5 years, right?
Oh, yeah.
With AI and how streamlined it is. And I see it everywhere. I use it every day, right? Multiple different kinds of applications, as well as at home. I talk to my kids, and my kids use it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's that concern, especially the younger kids, like, oh, well, they're cheating. Well, they're not really cheating. I feel like they're as long as they don't use it as a crutch and they use it as a way to speed things up and learn from it.
Exactly.
I think that's a huge benefit. But we'll get into the weeds here and to more about that here in a second. But before we dive in, the first question that I ask all of my guests here is, what does being a kind leader mean to you?
Great question. To me, being a kind leader means that I need to have empathy for the people that I'm leading. I need to understand who they are. I don't believe that a kind leader is a dictator. While at the end of the day, that leader needs to be responsible for the decisions that are being made and for moving forward and setting the direction and absolutely for leading their team. They can do so with kindness by understanding who that team is, understanding what their needs are. And I believe as a kind leader, one of the key things to me is that not only are we looking for our own personal goal achievement, but we're also looking to how do we help those on our team, those people that we're leading, achieve their goals and objectives while simultaneously helping us achieve ours.
Beautiful. Well said. I love this question because all my guests essentially have similar answers, right? Especially from an empathy, but they have their own flavor. So as it relates to the AI side, which is your experience and your expertise, some leaders are worried about, obviously, potentially, or people are worried about losing their jobs through AI, or leaders even worry about AI dehumanizing leadership from that perspective. How do you challenge or reframe that?
It's a great question. I think with any new technology, there's always fear that comes along with that. With humans, we don't necessarily love change. I've worked hard to embrace it, but it's hard. And yet, at the same point, I've studied major shifts in technology over our history, starting with the printing press, taking a look at the steam engine, then the internal combustion engine, then the PC, and then the internet. Every time one of these things came around, many people started talking about how it was going to be the end of life as we knew it. It was going to change everything. And in one respect, they were certainly right. The printing press made knowledge much more accessible. The steam engine allowed us to get heavy work done much faster. The internal combustion engine means we can travel much better than and faster than we were before. So it's definitely done a lot of that for us. But while some people were displaced in that process from a work perspective, I think the leaders that excelled in that were the ones that identified the new opportunities that those technologies brought. And that's really where I see AI fitting in. I believe it's on that same level. And it's our job as leaders to not only learn how do we embrace AI for our leadership team, but also how do we leverage it within our teams? Because ultimately, as a leader, I'm here to serve others. Right. I really am a huge believer in servant leadership. And if I really honestly want to serve others, AI will help me serve them faster and better. And I want to say both because it's not just faster, it's also better. Right. I've been in digital marketing for over almost 30 years. And AI amplifying my skill and experience can write better copy than I can do on my own. And that is then delivering more value to my clients as a result of that. So as leaders, I think we have that obligation to learn how to leverage it, but also to lead our teams and teach them that by them using those same tools, they can add more value in everything that they're doing. And that ultimately, that rising tide essentially raises everybody's boat.
Absolutely. Well said, Jonathan. And I think, pulling a thread on technology and innovation, right, throughout the centuries. I don't know if you knew this, but I'm a pilot. And
no, I did not.
Technology has decreased, although you have seen a lot of plane crashes in the news lately, technology has decreased the accident rates, especially in the general aviation side. And the reason is, with autopilot, with better weather information, with better information about your engines and tracking that to a detail where you can see the heat of your cylinders as well as the exhaust and all that stuff. You can start predicting better things. And now we're more informed as pilots out there to make us better and make better decisions with quicker and faster information. Compared to like if you first started, like when the first pilots out there flying for mailmen, right? That were taking mail. That was they had one gauge or maybe two, and they were just crazy going. They didn't know that the weather, there was a thunderstorm coming. They were just going and weaving and bobbing.
Literally, yeah. There's a storm ahead. We got to work around it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and what I wanted to emphasize here to our audience here is embrace AI, just like everything else, right? New technologies. There's obviously the bell curve of individuals, right? There's people that are going to be more, or companies that are going to be more forthcoming about leveraging these technologies to help themselves. But there are going to be people that are going to be like, I'm gonna wait until everything gets done. So, how do you compare that kind of, or how do you work with companies or leaders out there that they have a mixture of people in that organization where they're like, you got people that are like, yeah, I'm gonna get the latest and greatest, and you have people that are, don't talk to me, I'm gonna stick with pen and paper.
We try to play what I would refer to as a pragmatic role in that. For myself, being one of those entrepreneurs that always want the latest and greatest. Yeah. I want to understand that to that leader, I want to help them understand that the tools that they have available to them today, when used properly, will likely take them farther than they'll ever get if they try to keep searching for that perfect tool, especially with the rapid change of advancement in AI. The perfect tool today likely won't be the perfect tool a week from now because something else will have come out. And it's literally the landscape is changing so rapidly. On the other end of that, we have people that don't want to have anything to do with it. And again, I want to encourage them that they don't need to become a master of every tool. They don't need to learn what's perfect in every situation. Simply by embracing the tool that we have available to us. So most businesses are either a Microsoft or Google shop. That means they're going to have access to Copilot or Gemini. And those are great. If not, they're going to have access to ChatGPT in most cases. Any one of those three applications is perfectly capable of vaulting us so far ahead of where we are without that tool that we don't need to worry about using the perfect tool. We simply need to learn how to effectively use the tool we have in front of us. What I would often compare it to is, imagine if you and I were both going to meet for dinner, and obviously you probably drive one brand of vehicle. I have my favorite brand of vehicle. And at the end of the day, we're both pretty sure that we drive the best vehicle for us based upon our desires. And they're probably different brands, and that's okay. Because when we meet for dinner tonight, as long as we both drive our vehicles, we're going to get there in a reasonable amount of time, and we're going to get there happily, and everything's going to be great. If one of us decided to walk and one of us decided to drive, then there would be a significant difference in how we arrived and the condition in which we arrived at the restaurant. Right. And that's really where I believe AI is at today. Those businesses and those organizations that embrace AI, those where the leaders are taking it, are going to be showing up to dinner in their favorite car. Those that don't embrace it are going to be the ones that decided to walk on a 90-degree day, 17 miles to go to dinner, and are going to arrive, but it's going to take them much longer. They're going to be hot and sweaty and exhausted when they arrive. Yeah. And as a result, the experience is going to be a negative one as opposed to a positive one. And so I think, again, my encouragement to everybody across the board is, let's be pragmatic and let's focus on the tools that are available to us today and learn how to use those effectively. Not even master them, but just use them effectively. And then as you begin to get into it, as with anything, some people are going to say, wow, I love this AI stuff. I want to learn more. And others are going to go, I really don't care what vehicle I've got. Just can you give me the keys because I need to drive somewhere? Right. And that's okay too.
Right. That's a beautiful analogy for sure. I was picturing myself walking 70 minutes, that's in the hot day. Don't want to do that. And that is what AI is doing for us.
Absolutely.
As individuals at home or in businesses, right? I'm able to go faster, right? So I love that analogy. I can get in a car and get there faster. I don't care which one it is. Also, training is very important, right? Enablement,
incredibly,
right? Enablement of these, whichever tool your organization picks or you as individual, there's a lot of training out there, and the technology continuously changes as well, right? I mean, it's constantly, there's agent stuff, now there's research, there's all the different things that are coming in for us to leverage, and how do we use it and how to properly put some prompts there that are going to give you the right information as well, right?
Two things happen with AI when people embrace it. First is they tend to overcomplicate it, and they tend to think it has to be, everything's got to be just so, and I got to get everything perfect. The reality is these are all large language models that are trained on natural language processing. And if we communicate with them much in the same way that you and I are communicating right here, literally conversationally, we're going to get good results. Now, there are certain things that we can do in order to get better results, just as in conversations. If I'm a salesperson, I can learn how to say certain things better that may increase my closing percentage. If I'm in customer service, I can learn how to say things in order to calm down an upset client. So how we say things can matter. Yeah. But first, we just need to understand that the key is just to communicate and share with that. And a big part of that, as you mentioned, is training so that it simply understands who I am. And training doesn't have to be complex. I often refer to it as just giving context to the AI model. Yeah. So if I was, for example, going to ask it to write a standard operating procedure for my company, I could go in and say, I need you to write a standard operating procedure about this. And it could do that. It's been trained on every book and every library and all that information. It could write a great SOP. But I might get to the end of it and go, well, that didn't really relate to me because I didn't give it enough context. And that training, at least in my mind there, refers to that context. I need to let it know what type of company I am. I need to let it know where I'm located. I need to let it know who's going to be using that SOP, what's the underlying purpose of it. And I need to just give it relevant information pertaining to that. Yeah. Here's the beauty that very few people, though, talk about. As we talk about giving context to AI and people go, oh my gosh, I don't know what to say. I don't know what I should and shouldn't say. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Ask the AI the question you've got or explain the objective you're trying to meet, and then end it with, ask me any questions you have. So if I'm talking to ChatGPT and I'm saying, I need to create an SOP, it's in order to teach my team, as say I own a roofing company, how to greet the homeowner when we arrive on site, and I'm not sure what else to say, then I can just end it by saying, ask me any questions you have. And AI is intelligent enough, and I use that word in quotes because it's really not intelligent. It's just been programmed. But it has enough data to reference at that point to go, okay, here are 4 things that Jonathan didn't share with me that would allow me to write a better SOP. And it will then ask me those questions. I can answer them, and I'm going to get a tremendous and valuable response out of it.
That's a great tip. I'm gonna use that for later.
Thank you.
No, I love that. And I don't think I've ever asked that. I've always, I've only seen that in the research side, right? On the when you're going to the deep research, it asks you clarifying questions. But I love that. I'm gonna have to try that in the future. One thing, coming back to the empathy and the leadership side, because I love technology. Now you and I can talk about AI all day long.
We could,
but breaking it back, one thing that I've noticed, or the way I use it, and I'll give you an example how I use it, and I'll give you an example of how I'm seeing my kid, my 12-year-old, using it. Before AI, I would write an email, and if I was, if I saw an email and I got emotional, or I didn't agree with something, or I would, just write it, whatever, right? And then I would pause, leave it on, come back, read it again, make sure everything's...
Yes.
Now I can do the same, but I would ask Copilot, right, which I use Copilot here in the company. And I said, okay, make sure that this doesn't sound too direct. And I'm able to become a better leader in my organization. I'm leveraging this tool to help me tone down or better align my messaging to the right person or the audience. And it's so powerful, I feel like, right? I mean, what do you think about that?
No, it's one of my favorite ways to use AI. We all, I think, as leaders, get emails that we need to respond to that we get, and you look at it and you read it and go, okay, this is not going to be a 30-second response. Right. I need to sit down, whether it's because I need to put boundaries in place, whether it's because I need to share some difficult information, maybe a combination thereof. Maybe I know it's just going to lead to a longer discussion that I probably don't have time for or desire to dig into. And the beautiful thing about AI, and it's one of the things that I encourage leaders to start doing with it, is we all get those emails. Maybe not every day, but we get those emails. The next time you get one, take the email. So if you sent me that email, I'm literally going to take the email you sent me, paste that into my AI tool, whether it's, again, Copilot or whether it's Gemini, whether it's ChatGPT, doesn't matter. And then I'm going to just say, I need to write a response to this, and I want the response to basically say X, where I fill in whatever I want it to say. I don't have to try to write it. AI is intelligent enough, it's going to then write an incredible response to that. That now I can edit. And yes, you do need to edit it. But that editing may take me 2 or 3 minutes as opposed to 15 or 20 staring at, thinking about, deciding, typing, deleting, then coming back later because I can't get there today, my mind's not around it, and ultimately not dealing with an issue as timely as I should or as quickly as I should, while also wasting a lot of my time and probably my team's time because I'm going to ask them to help out, versus literally a copy and paste in the email, back, do some editing, probably a 3-minute turnaround on a fairly difficult email, a 5 to 10 minute turnaround on an incredibly difficult email that might have taken me hours or might have even required me to have meetings with people on my team before I responded. And in many cases, I don't need to do that anymore.
Right. So the energy that you're putting into it compared to what it was before, right? You have access to so much, from, like you said, right? I don't have to reach out to other team members, and I can understand and start from somewhere rather than just a blank response, right? Like it not only accelerates, but it level sets your I feel like your the way you're going to respond, so you can respond with a better approach rather than like it used to be before. So.
Well, it reminds me, I've been told many times as a person, and especially as a leader, I should never make a decision based on emotion.
Exactly.
That's not the right state for me to be in when I make an important decision. Right. It's not the right space to be in when you write an important email either. And AI helps remove the emotion and focuses more on the logic of it. And I find, at least for me, being an emotional human being is incredibly valuable.
Absolutely. Another thing, going back to how our kids using AI, I noticed my kid, he was playing some computer game. I can't remember the name of it right now. And he was interacting with I think he was using ChatGPT, and he was asking, hey, I'm in this level. I need a tip on X, Y, and Z to get there, right? And what I appreciated, what was happening there, Jonathan, is I noticed almost like a psychological connection with the interaction from the way AI was responding to my kid. In a way, it brought it down to the level of linguistic, like the things that the kids use nowadays, and it was encouraging them because he was coming back. Oh, I couldn't figure it out. I did this. It's okay, and he was responding like, the reason you're doing it, this is how you're learning. Continue doing. Try this, and that. And then he came back. Oh, that worked. Great job. I knew you could do it. An amazing, continue pushing forward until you beat this level. Like it was so, I was looking at the interaction. I was like, oh my gosh, this is huge. This is for a kid to see that encouragement and make him feel like $1,000,000, like he's got something to supporting him and pushing it forward from a psychological. I really enjoyed it and I appreciate it. Granted, you can go the other way if you don't use it correctly, right? I think, right?
Sure.
Yeah, but I saw a use case there, and I was telling my kid definitely and I saw his like excitement. Like, what I'm trying to say here.
Absolutely. And AI tends to be incredibly supportive. In fact, that's probably one of the things as a leader we need to be aware of. There are times that we need to tell the AI models that we want you to challenge us. We want you to model an iron sharpens iron model because it is by default, again, the developers want us to use their software. And so they've built in a high degree of niceness, shall we say, into that. And that's great for a lot of scenarios. And it's especially great in things like you mentioned. As leaders, though, I think sometimes it's important for us to understand that AI, without being prompted to challenge you, may tell you that your great idea is incredible when it's only okay.
Yeah.
And therefore, as a leader, you may want to go back and let AI know that I want you to challenge my assumptions. I want you to help me make this and better improve it. If you love it, tell me. But if you don't, tell me that as well. And you'll get a true consultant perspective back, as opposed to the yes man employee perspective.
Right. Beautiful. Speaking of from a leadership perspective and organizations leveraging AI, organizations have cultures, right? I'm building a culture of kind leaders and building that up. And as we get AI more ingrained, what are your thoughts on, as you're saying, they're intelligent, they're programmed, quote unquote, but it'll start learning the way the organization interacts with each other, right? You see AI as it learns also being a critical piece to helping culture continue to evolve in the organization and really communicate and interact. So let me give you an example. What I'm trying to say is me as a leader, as a kind leader in the organization, and that's the culture that we have. I want to make sure that as people start using AI within our organization, that even AI has a flavor of our culture.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think so. And I think with the memory features that many of the AIs have now, which remember and can reference past interactions, I think that's going to become very natural that the AI is going to learn your organization, especially when you have a model that you're using within a business or within an organization like that. It's going to learn that. And I think it ultimately helps because it helps maintain not only brand consistency, which is important across the board, but even in internal communications, if it knows this is how the organization likes to handle it, it's going to help craft messages in that way, whether that be an internal SOP, a memo, maybe it's an employee review that it's going to be able to track based upon that and understanding the organizational's impact. I just recently had to do a couple of reviews for some of my staff that had come up on their normal review process. And I admit it's not something as an ADD entrepreneur I generally look forward to. I love to do the reviews, but I don't like putting the report together.
Yeah.
And so I literally just uploaded past reports that I had used, not different employees, but past reports, and said, here's the information I need to create. Would you interview me and help me complete this for my new employee? And it literally did that because, again, it was trained on my organization and trained on Jonathan's style. It interviewed me, asked me the questions needed in order to complete the report, and then helped me write the report. And I spent maybe 15 minutes editing the report when it was done. Normally, this process for me takes a couple of hours just because it's of the nature of what it is. And now I was able to do that in less than 30 minutes total, including the interview. And I think, kind of going back to your point, because it understood our organization, it allowed another way to do that probably better, probably more accurately, and ultimately faster at the same time.
Yeah, I like that. I think, and it's going to help, especially companies that are focused on the people and taking care of the people and doing all that stuff, infusing that to cater to your organization, to the individual.
Yes.
And for example, we have a career progression here. And one of the ways I'm starting to lean into AI and helping the individuals interact and understand, what do I need to do next, right? Obviously, they're going to have touch points with their supervisors, with peers and stuff like that, but having that individual feedback back and forth. What am I missing? Here's what I want to know. What am I missing in this trajectory of my career? Here's what I need. And then essentially, as we feed this information to our tools, right, Copilot and all the other things, it will provide better information and faster information. And now these folks are integrated not only with how they do things, but how they build things within the organization.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's, again, the ability of the AI to continue to essentially learn by adding knowledge to its knowledge bases and reference that knowledge to be more reflective of who we are as individuals and organizations, I think is one of the real powers that it has as we go forward.
Yeah. So speaking of, as it relates to being so powerful and people really using this to go faster, to be better, now let's talk a little bit about the ethical side of the fence.
Sure.
What are the potential ethical pitfall leaders need to look out for when it comes to rolling out and embracing AI in the organization?
It's interesting. I have a fairly unpopular opinion when it comes to AI ethics, and that's that AI ethics is not a thing. Ethics, organizational, leadership, business ethics, absolutely imperative. I think the reason AI ethics is being talked about is that so many organizations don't have their ethics in good shape in shall we say, they're not running a tight ship, shall we speak. And so there's too many, well, hang on, could I do this? Would that be okay? Because they don't have the right boundaries in place. So my personal belief is that if you have the right organizational ethics and the right business ethics, that AI doesn't pose any issues for you because those issues can be handled by your ethics. Prime example, AI makes it very easy for me to take one of your podcasts, take your voice and recreate your voice saying anything that I want. I can do that today for less than $20 and probably in under an hour. Ethically, that wouldn't be something that would be right to do. Just because I'm capable of doing it doesn't necessarily create the ethical problem unless I have a question about, is it okay for me to replicate somebody else's likeness and make them say something that's not true? So if it, on a relevant basis, let's say something that seems innocuous and harmless, is it okay for me to make up testimonials for my business with AI?
Right.
And because I can do that, I can even make them videos, I can make them voice.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Well, if it's not an AI ethics question to me, that's just an ethical question to me. Does that difference make sense?
Absolutely. It's just within, right? It's like who we are as individuals, who we are as organizations, ethically, that will reflect into the AI integration and implementation in our organization. So I agree with you from that perspective. And also I think as part of the training is emphasizing more on who we are as a culture, an organization, rather than here's what focusing on the negative per se, right? Or what you shouldn't be doing per se.
Well, and probably a few reminders during training with your team that just because we can do something doesn't mean we should. If you wouldn't have done this before AI, we shouldn't do it with AI either. In other words, if you wouldn't have fabricated testimonials to put on a marketing page before, we don't want to use AI to fabricate testimonials today.
Right. So, you've been coaching, training, or helping a lot of organizations with AI implemented. Do you have a particular, you don't have to share names, but a particular, success story of how you've been able to integrate and deploy AI within an organization?
There's a number of them. I think the one that probably I find the most valuable is an organization that we've worked with that we've been able to help their team, which is not as large as they want it to be. They're a nonprofit. They don't have the budget to hire as many people as they want. And so the team really found themselves in a situation where literally every day there was so much more work to be done than the time available to do it, that the stress level amongst the team was very high. This nonprofit didn't use AI to cut a single employee. They used it instead to amplify those employees and be able to do much more work. And so now they're in a situation where those employees on a regular basis their stress level has been reduced. And the feedback from the employees has been, wow, this allows me to get stuff done faster. And most importantly, probably, it allows the employees and the team to take some of those tasks that are just arduous, that we have to be done.
Right.
Somebody's got to do them, but nobody wants to do them, and have AI do such a preponderance of that work that now it's not an arduous task anymore.
Right.
We've moved it from arduous to maybe, whatever. But that's a whole lot better on the team's attitude than every Friday I got to do this and I don't want to do this. I know I got to do it and I'm going to put it off and I'm going to put it off. And that means that ultimately they're not going to do as good a job at it because it's a stressful thing to do. It's not something they enjoy. And we've seen multiple applications, again, in different clients, but this client in particular, where we've been able to change that paradigm within the team to allow the team now to actually enjoy doing some of those things, because now they're directing the AI, but the AI is doing the heavy lifting. Yeah. And the case in point for this is a massive report that they needed to go through on a monthly basis. And it took one of their team members nearly 4 days to go through this report, pull all of the information that was needed, figure out how it was relevant to the various departments. It's a large nonprofit, and it was just arduous.
Yeah.
Now we've worked with them to develop prompts, and they do that entire report process and all of the connections and everything else, and have it ready for distribution in under 2 hours a week. That moving from 4 days to 2 hours, in my mind, is a massive win. And it's been great in their organization because now they actually have other staff members that are wanting to learn how to do that so they can cross-train better. When in the past, nobody wanted to be trained on how to clean the toilets because that just wasn't the fun job.
Right.
And now we've essentially been able to take those and make those very palatable and very workable. And as a result, again, just improve the general morale of the team.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer. We talked about kind leadership. We want to help our teams achieve the things that are important to them as well, while they help us. Yeah. And AI has just done that in so many ways. That's just one that comes to mind.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And that, it's especially being a nonprofit, being able to do more with less, and
absolutely,
and the impact, right? I think the impact, when I talk to my employees and even customers, like, how is this technology impacting your organization in a good way, right? How do we measure that, and how do we keep building on it, right? So it sounds like you're doing a good job. And I know this conversation has been a lot of, I think it's a good mixture of a lot of technology and it being in AI and leadership. And I appreciate that. One thing that I like to do, I shared with you earlier, is like flip the mic, right? I want to give my guests an opportunity to ask me a question here. So,
well, I would love to find out from your perspective, where do you see, as someone that talks about kind leadership and that, how do you believe that AI can best be leveraged in the team side? Obviously, as leaders, we're all thinking about ways we can use it, and that tends to be an easier conversation. I'd love your perspective on, as we lead, how do we roll that out in your mind, or what benefits do you see that brings to the teams that we're leading?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about how AI speed things up, right? From my perspective, and in my organization, I already started rolling out this year. We're a Microsoft shop, so we're doing a lot of Copilot. And we started with 10 people, and now we're the committee, and now we're expanding and doing more. And what I love about that, we meet every month, and in that hour, we discuss, how are you using it? I share how I'm using it, and then I can listen and hear how people at different levels are using it, right? From other leaders to junior people. And they give you a perspective, because everything is about perspective and how, how that tool is really helping you. Because something a junior person has done, it's like, oh, that's interesting, right? Now I'm going to bring back the tip you gave me. It's like, tell at the end of that, it's like, ask me any questions, you want, that type of thing.
Exactly.
Which I haven't thought of it. I haven't read it. And so I think it's a good tip there. But hopefully that answers your question as it relates to
it. Does. No, that's a great answer. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I see that evolve even more. And the more we are trained, the more we help our people enable good AI into the organization, the faster we're going to be. Our customers,
Yes.
I'm talking to some customers right now that, they are, it's an accounting firm that we're helping them, and they're leading we are an leading IT company, and we also do accounting,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's their mindset.
Mm-hmm.
They have to think like a
Yeah.
technology firm, AI, how can we leverage all stuff? And at the same time, to improve our accounting processes and packages and tools to help to impact my end customer. So,
Mm.
and that's a mind shift that, to your point, it's going to be the people that are going to be driving to the restaurant compared to the people that are going to be walking to the restaurant, right? They're going
Yeah.
to be left behind.
Exactly.
They're going to be left behind at different levels if they don't start engaging and interacting with that. Well, cool. Thank you for that question. That was great. Now, going to a few rapid fire questions here. One book every leader should read.
I think it's an old one, but I still think it's so relevant, and that's Simon Sinek's book about why. We need to understand, if we're going to lead our teams, we need to be able to instill in them why it is that we're doing whatever it is that we do. And so I think that book, Start With Why, is something every leader should read.
Beautiful. Favorite quote or mantra?
Success loves speed, meaning speed to implementation. As a coach and a trainer, one of the things I see so frequently is people that will gather knowledge and gather more knowledge and gather more knowledge and gather more knowledge, and then never actually take action based upon that. And I believe that the success in business and in life appreciates speed, and that general concept of good today beats better tomorrow.
Like it. Very nice. If you could have coffee with anyone, past or present, who would it be and why?
That's a great question. Boy, that list would be long. The first one that probably comes to mind is, if I could have lunch with anyone or coffee, I think it would be Abraham Lincoln. And the reason is that we don't always study about the fact that he failed so many times before he finally succeeded. And I would love to understand more about his resiliency and tenacity in getting through the failures that he did, because there were many of them before he finally became president and one of the U.S.'s most famous presidents.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. We'd love to sit down with him too. Perfect. Thank you for that. I do have something new that I'm doing as it relates to, for our audience here, is the Kind Leadership Challenge, right? And now we're talking about AI and leadership. And the Kind Leader Challenge that I have for this week or for this episode is, think about one workflow or recurring task that slows your team down. And try using Copilot, since we use Microsoft Copilot, but feel free to use anything else to streamline and automate that process, and share with us. You don't have to give us business details, but just how had that improved or helped you. So tag me and Jonathan with hashtag Kind Leader Challenge, and share those things and how it has helped you. So looking forward to the responses and the tagging. I mean, this has been a great conversation. To be honest, I was excited, but at the same time, I wasn't sure how we were going to connect it with Kind Leadership. I think you did a great job in the answering the questions, and I think it was a really great conversation. And hopefully, I think that the audience is going to really enjoy it, so they can improve their lives, go faster, and do better things with AI. So, where can folks find you out in the social world?
One of two ways. They can just remember my name. It's jonathanmast.com, and they can go to jonathanmast.com/linktree. It's got all kinds of information, lots of free resources, a few paid ones, but a lot of free stuff. Or if you don't remember my name, you can just remember I'm the white bearded guy that knows AI. And if you look up white beard and AI, you'll find my website, whitebeardstrategies.com.
Nice. I can imagine how you came up with that name.
If you're watching, if you're listening, it might be harder, but yeah, I've got a white beard that's been growing for many years. So
very nice. Any final thoughts? The final message that you want to share with the audience here?
Regardless of whether you're using AI on a day-to-day basis or it's something you're looking at, I want to encourage you to begin to, again, leverage it not only in your own life, but to lead your team to do so as well. Because even with a small team, if you could teach everybody how to save 30 minutes a day, the number of person hours that you can add in to do more things, to do things better, to add more value, grow exponentially. So one task a day.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jonathan. So thank you again for joining us and sharing your voice and wisdom. And to our audience, thank you for listening to the Kind Leader Podcast. And remember, be kind, bring value, rise together. Have an amazing day, everybody.